Hello everyone and welcome back once more. Now my guest today works internationally teaching and promoting the traditional medicine and practices of her native Mexico. She has a doctorate in neurolinguistics and psycholinguistics and went on to train in many forms of indigenous energetic and ancestral healing techniques. Her work centres on the impact of transgenerational and ancestral inheritance in our everyday lives. She is Mayela Almazan Areola. Mayela, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to my kitchen.
And you're actually not in Mexico, are you? Let's just set the scene for people. You're in Ireland, which...
No, I have lived outside Mexico for many years. I fell for an Irish accent. So, and I am in Ireland at the moment. I have been for the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, can we begin? Because in some ways it seems like where you are, you've come a long way from where you started, because a doctorate in neurolinguistics and psycholinguistics. And you actually say on your website, let me just read this because I loved it and I thought it was so interesting. You say you started your journey from the brain to the heart and from intellect to intuition. So let's start with that. What was that all about?
Well, there is no mistake in the way our lives develop. That I know now, for sure. And yes, I started my life professionally, if you wish, in academia. I got to the culprit of, I flew very, very high in the research and academic world. There was an element where I felt incomplete. I felt there was something else somewhere that was missing in my life, personal life, because even though I did achieve a lot, I got an article published in a massive journal. I was the first person to publish there with my supervisor at the time, my PhD supervisor. And I haven't got the PhD yet, first time. But it published in Cognition is the name of the journal. So I did achieve a lot, and it was a contradiction that I felt so fulfilled in my profession and yet empty inside in some way.
Yes,
so that's how
probably a lot of people can actually associate with that.
I think so. It's particularly for women. I think it is an interesting journey because modern world is very much like that, very much the cult to the intellect and to science. Sometimes it just doesn't work anymore for us. But I still use my skills and I loved my research. And funnily enough, I worked with the population with a genetic condition where physically these people resemble fairies. So I wasn't far away from the whole thing at all, which is nice.
Very much so. I mean, that sounds fascinating in itself. I love the mug as well. Making magic happen.
Yeah.
So you had this kind of emptiness, this hollowness inside. So is that what started to take you back to your ancestral roots, looking at your ancestral roots?
It's that, and it's also that feel of missing something and not quite knowing what it is, even though on the surface everything's fine. You're healthy, you have a roof over your head, you have a healthy family, you have a good relationship with your partner, your husband. You are fulfilled in your career, and you think, but there's something really important missing here.
Yeah.
So it was a path of self-development. First and foremost, I always work like this. I like to say, you need to take the medicine.
Yes.
Before you can share the medicine, because taking the medicine, is what ensures that you understand it fully and take it seriously.
Yes.
So, yes, it was a path of self-development for me to start with, to find what was the missing bit.
Yeah. And where did you begin with that? Because there are plenty of people listening who I'm sure can relate.
I came across, it was one of those incredible things. to be perfectly honest, I don't remember where I came across some books of Bert Hellinger, German, a German philosopher. He's a master. And they deeply resonated with me. He talked about people not being the result of just whatever happens in their lives, but we are the result of all of the generations of people behind us that still live in our bones and in our DNA.
Yes.
So I went and looked for more information about him and about his work, and I came across a list of official practitioners, and one of them lived in my hometown in Mexico, and I have been since I've left Mexico, I have been going back once or twice a year.
Yeah.
I thought, I have to go and see what this is all about. And this was the beginning of me looking at Bert Hellinger's work with family constellation, systemic work. That he doesn't like to call it a therapy, he calls it,
Yes, yeah. Mm. And you, of course, you've gone on to be a facilitator in this yourself. Yeah. So, I mean, you've mentioned, we're the product of everyone who's gone before us, and the ancestors, and obviously we're here to talk about the ancestors and what this means. So what, you come from a very different background to a lot of the people who may be listening in. What do the ancestors mean to you, and what is that ancestral heritage?
I think it's a buzzword at the moment, isn't it? Ancestral.
It is.
Ancestral healing. That's why we're here, probably. But for me, ancestral work means, number one, realizing that it does not matter where you come from. Your ancestral wisdom is as important, relevant, and meaningful to the whole world as the ancestral work of someone coming from somewhere exotic like Mexico. So it's realizing that also our ancestral inheritance is not just the pain and the pain body and the trauma, but it's also all of the, some people call it Akashic records, some people call it memories, some people call it skills and the tools of our ancestors. We also have those in our bones. So
yes,
it is natural tendency of humanity to focus on the trauma and the pain because it is so powerful and it still determines so much of our lives. But I think we're coming full circle now where we're saying, okay, yes, we have a lot of trauma, we have a lot of issues to work on and painful memories, tribal memories. But there's also this magic element of, you have the bread makers, the healers, the builders, the herbalists, the homemakers, all of those are also inside of us. So
yes,
it's calling upon all of these things as well as working on those things that are difficult for us and painful for us.
Yeah, so within our, I don't know, what would you call it, our DNA lineage maybe, there are many, many gifts as well as as well as all of the blockages and maybe problems or traumas. In fact, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Science is now catching up to this, epigenetics, Google it.
I was just about to mention epigenetics because that again, the science is showing now what our ancestors kind of knew without needing it proved, as it were. That trauma actually changes our DNA, doesn't it?
It does.
And if trauma changes our DNA, then also the good things must as well. It works both ways, doesn't it? And that then sits in the gifts or the legacy that comes down to us.
And also remember that we know from quantum physics that the observer changes the result of what is seen.
Yes.
The impact on the perception and the realization of that which we observe.
Yeah.
So by choosing to focus on our blessings, on our inherited blessings and wisdom.
Yeah.
We are, in a way, awakening them as much as when we pay attention to the painful stuff.
Yes.
So, same way we can reach out for one, we can reach out for the other end, which is marvelous and magical.
Yes. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful point to make, actually, because we do tend to focus too much really on the negative, and it becomes our story, and it can take us over and be what, be where all our energy goes, really. And
probably one of the main things about working with ancestral healing, about Hellinger says it beautifully.
Yeah.
A victim cannot look to the future. A victim looks for allies.
Yeah.
Allies that talk about something which happened in the past that was not nice.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not really looking for a solution. So when we talk about ancestral healing, we're looking at standing on the shoulders of our ancestors, looking at the future.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not as something they say, heard say, they're not a sofa to sit on forever. Springboard.
Yes, it's not about wallowing in it.
No, although many people choose to do that, as you say.
Yeah, yeah. So how, you talked about ancestral healing. How would this work? How would you help someone to move beyond, just the story that's running around their energy field?
Well, the first thing we need to acknowledge is just acknowledge what is. The beauty of family constellation work, when you do it properly, is that there is no judgment. And that's something massive, Saira, because as a therapist or a facilitator or a healer, it's very difficult due to our humanity not to judge and not to pass judgment.
Yeah.
Not to exclude those who are naughty in the story. There's always a naughty one or a few naughty ones in the stories of pain and trauma.
Yeah.
People. And working from a center of no judgment is at the core of the work of the Hellinger Family Constellations. And achieving that state, it's a personal thing of each facilitator. You cannot learn that in training, in personal development. Yeah. So we need to know very, very little, in fact. When we do ancestral healing in this manner, words are irrelevant because they are the reflection of a story we've created in our heads.
Yeah.
As much as what we experience, which is very valid. It's also an element where we create also like a script, which is not of any help to the solution. No. So a lot of my work is done in silence. When I get the permission of somebody to work, this opens up to the facilitator the field, the family field of the person who comes to see you. And you can Google morphogenetic fields if you wish to find those. What this means is that for that brief moment, for that brief time, we are allowed to come into contact with what is has not been seen in this story.
Yes.
Through the blessings of the person who comes to see us and that permission. So
there's always another perspective, isn't there?
Yes, and I love that saying, nothing is what it seems.
Yes.
And it's nearly like, not every time, but very, very often that is the case. What we see in this world, what we see people do, their behavior, their responses to events are the result of a lot of conditioning and a lot of impact of religion, education, culture. Determine our responses and our reactions. When you go deep into the soul of that person and the soul of that family, you you are granted the privilege of seeing things devoid of all this story, devoid of all this cultural adaptations and scripts. So you're looking at the real deal, to call it something.
Yes, yes.
So if you work in a group setting, this implies having people stand up, participants in the group stand up for the main characters, to call it something, in the session. And the people who stand up don't know who they are meant to be representing.
Yeah.
This is where science doesn't quite sit comfortably with family constellation work, because they can't explain how those people who stand up there take on the full role, to call it something, without knowing what the role is, but they play it.
I mean, it sounds nuts logically, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Bert Helling calls this phenomenological, which is a very long word. Phenomenal. It's a phenomenon. It's there, and it's there. What do you do with it? It's there.
Yeah.
How do you explain it? Well, I can't, but it's there.
Yes.
So let's use this to the benefit of the person who came to see us. And as we are trained to read, it's mostly body language, the way people are positioned, the way they look, which directions they look, different things give us clues as to how it may be possible to make seen what has been left out of the story of this person's life. Because in the end, this type of ancestral healing is based on making visible the invisible, we call it. And we do this through these tools. When it's a one-to-one session, we can use little props. Some people use Lego people, I'm calling names of brands, but little people toys, or to create this scenario rather than have people. So this is a type of work, and because with technology like today, so easy to work, you can do this distance work as well as.
So it works online. It doesn't have to be in person.
It does. Yes.
I mean, it sounds very powerful, and I do know one or two people who have done family constellation work, and can speak for the results. As you say, there's a level at which it seems counterintuitive.
Very much so. I'm a scientist.
But it works.
That's right.
And I was listening to one of my friends talk about what she did, and it was almost like the soul of one or two of her ancestors seemed to overlight the person who was playing the role.
Yes.
Yeah, incredible.
And this just happens for the duration of the session. This is important to emphasize.
Yeah.
Whenever a group gets together to work in a session, those who are serving as representatives are also working through stuff, some of which is very obvious to them.
Yes.
And some of it may not. Because let's remember, we all have trauma and healing to heal, and thankfully there's not that many different ways of suffering, so we share a lot in common with everybody in the world.
Yes.
So by attending a session as a participant, you are it's no coincidence that this group is here. The participants are also getting something out of this for themselves, and some healing taking place. So you may see sessions where the people even sitting around, not participating necessarily, but just sitting around, are have this cleansing, a lot of cry, or because they are, even though they're not officially, nobody knows what's going on there, connecting at a different level with the healing and the getting together of the family again. We are about putting together things that were out of place. The way that is explained to us beautifully is when we look at our ancestors behind and we go back 20, 30, 40 generations and we keep going back, where do you get?
Yeah.
What's at the back of all of these people? Well, there's, number one, a place where your ancestors and mine are the same.
Yes, absolutely. It all comes together at some point.
So we are related at some point. And if you keep going back, we get to the source, call it love, call it God. So family constellation work is about bringing that life force, that chi, that prana, that love, flow back into this system. Because for whatever reason, that connection gets lost, misplaced.
Yeah.
So we're basically about bringing families back together.
Yeah. And in healing the family line, it brings more energy, more, as you say, more life force into the present, into the now. Yeah.
We have to remember that at the beginning of his work, Hellinger realized that in his practice as a therapist, Gestalt therapist, and many other things that he used in his practice, he realized people came to him with descriptions of destructive behavior that could not explain, like me feeling, what's wrong with me? There's everything outside seems fine, but there's something deeply troublesome for me.
Yeah.
People were actually getting into addiction habits, all sorts of difficulties. And it was just something that was inherited from far back.
Yeah. In fact, one of the people I've been talking to, he talks about how at least a third of the so-called issues that we're dealing with, whether they're health related or emotional, psychological, whatever, at least a third of what we're dealing with at any one moment is to do with our ancestral line. It's not our stuff. We're trying to unpick it for our lineage, basically. It's been gifted to us to sort out. And somebody at some point within the line has to say, enough, I'll do the work.
That's it.
Yeah.
I would say it's even more than that, because even our professions, our occupations are determined many times by, inheritance. The choice of partners, absolutely.
Yeah.
To do with, one family system and another family system. It's not about the individual, it's about the system, meaning healing.
Yeah.
And in the mirror that you have in front of you to get that done, as you say.
Yes, yeah. And, within our culture, the Western culture, we have kind of divorced ourselves, going back easily 2,000 plus years. We've divorced ourselves really from this understanding of our ancestral lineage and how important it is, how important acknowledging this is, and the part it plays in us right now. And it's it's a deep wound, really, within our society's psyche.
It is, but like I said, I think through this kind of work, you are able to realize that your lineage is just as needed.
Yeah.
Gifts are just as important. You don't need to be come from the non-Western world. That Hellinger comes from Germany, in the middle of Germany somewhere.
Yeah.
And he's done so much to heal so many people through us who have trained with him and himself, of course. So it's about this remembrance. When I started then seeing all these changes in people through this work, it got me curious about my own country's understanding of healing and ancestral.
Yeah.
I'm not a native Mexican. You can tell I'm browner than you, but I'm not. Physically, I don't have the features of a full-on indigenous Mexican person. Most people in Mexico, many people in Mexico are a mix of all sorts of wonderful things.
I think that's true now for almost anywhere in the world, isn't it?
But we still have this in our bones.
Yes, we've been born in the land and the land speaks to us, I think.
Absolutely. So I started this work of discovering for myself, what do healers do? We don't call ourselves shamans in Mexico. People don't even call themselves anything because, and understand, you know, in Mexico, of course, we have Day of the Dead, which is the biggest, most important way of honoring our ancestors.
And is that something that's come through, because there's quite I should imagine quite a strong Spanish heritage in Mexico. Has that come through from there, or is that really from the native?
What you see in the lovely photographs now, it's a blend.
It's a blend.
It's
right.
a native. It is native. It's like Goddess Bridget in Ireland, who had to be made into a saint.
Yes, yeah.
So, in order to persuade the natives in Mexico, the Catholic Church had to incorporate certain things.
Yeah.
Our Virgin Mary is dark-skinned, you know, and all these like these adaptations to persuade people to come to your club. But it is a native and quite a pagan if you look deep down into it. But I think this is part of the reason why we are so at ease with talking about death and talking about ancestors, because every year for 5 days, it's not just one day, by the way, we heal ourselves by calling upon them, remembering them, talking about them, the funny stories and all the rest of it, and eating the food that they liked, the drinks that they enjoyed.
Yeah.
So it is a way to connect with that. And that is why whenever you think of Mexico and Mexican people, you think of them in terms of people who are really deep connected to the earth more than others, perhaps. And I think our customs and celebrations have a lot to do with this. And the fact that people are still deep believers in herbal medicine and all of these things, you know, the market's full of stuff. People will go there, and you know, everybody has a recipe for a tea to give you to feel that. So you may think it's herbs, you may think it's candles and stuff, and deep down what it is ancestral connection to the ancestors.
Yes.
From who we are.
Yeah.
And we heal through that too. You don't need to go to a therapist. We deep down what we need is to remember who we are and where we come from.
Yeah.
And through that connection, then of course we will remember the nice things as well.
Yes, the gifts come through as well. And I think you've made, you know, a very important point there, is that actually more than anything, what every one of us needs to remember is who we are. Because again, it seems to me that the way our culture, our society has chosen to evolve takes us away from that. From the moment we're born, almost, it's about taking us away from that.
It does, and it takes us away from the family environment. You know, people working longer hours, mothers as well as parents, fathers, and I invite everybody in your audience to marvel at the wonders of Native American customs, of Siberian shamans, but to realize that deep down we share all of these things. So we may call them different things. Use this as a way to get to your own ancestral healing method. Yes. Use this to get to your own blessings from your ancestors. Because everybody in the land has it. Some of us remember it and have it more at the surface of the skin than others. That doesn't mean you don't have it. It's an invitation. Yes.
So we need to remember our own tradition and link back into that. Yeah. You talk about the pain body. Can you just explain what you mean by that? Because there'll be people listening in who kind of think, well, I kind of think I get it, but I'm not. What do you mean when you talk about the pain body, and how can we work with that? How can this kind of healing really help with that?
Well, this is a gift from another Westerner, Eckhart Tolle. I'll have you know, Eckhart Tolle about the pain body of women in his bestseller, The Power of Now. It's a whole chapter devoted to this. I picked up on it because he makes specific mention to the pain body of women being related to all the memories we store in our wombs, in our womb space.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like a very powerful memory center for us. How we can do as many meditations as we want and all of this work if we don't heal our womb stories, nothing much is going to change for us. It's a concept that applies to men as well, though. I imagine like a mass of memories, really, that are ours. Some of them are not ours, inherited.
Yes.
But they take it, they take hold of our body. They live somewhere in our physical body. And through physical work, they start to come up, which is sometimes not very comfortable, but as these things surface, they give you the opportunity to look at them.
Yes, absolutely.
And once you see what is, like I mentioned before, you can transform it. You cannot transform anything unless you first see something as it is.
Yes.
So like in Alcoholic Anonymous, you raise your hand, you say, I'm an alcoholic. And from then on, the healing, the changes start. You
have to acknowledge it first of all, though. And not just, it's not just words, it's got to be felt. It's got to come, from a cellular level, that you acknowledge the truth of it.
Well, once more, we talk about all the bullshit of the brain and our stories in our head. The body never lies.
Yeah.
This is another disconnection from modern people in Mexico and in London, in New York.
Yeah.
We don't listen to our bodies. We bypass them with drugs, with painkillers, so as not to listen. But the body is trying to tell us something. And when we actually learn to listen to the body, it's the biggest discovery.
Yes.
Through the body, we can heal every level, personal, ancestral, transgenerational. It's all in there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, it's one of the things that I'm always saying to my clients is, it begins with your body. First and foremost, listen to the messages. And you almost have to help someone retrain them to listen to it because we've been taught so well not to.
No, and we are kind of a little bit afraid because we always think, what's going to come out?
Yeah, absolutely. Am I going to be out of control? Yeah.
Yes.
It's really important to us to be in control.
And that's why you need to trust the person you work with.
Yeah.
And trust that, the process is going to be the right one for you. Whenever I do the closing of people in the Mexican traditional way, I learned this technique from birth workers, traditional Mexican midwives. Ceremony where we use a number of cloths, very special cloths made in Mexico by hand. And we lay the person down. There's a ritual bath that takes place first. Also about the connection of our body being bathed and taken care of.
Yeah.
And connecting with the water and the herbs in the water. When was the last time you were bathed? When you were a kid. So we do this with particularly with women who have just given birth, because we feel that as they birth a baby, they open up.
Yes.
Physically and energetically as well. And things come in. The cold, we say, the wind comes in and takes over.
Yeah.
You're sick because you need to have a warm little body.
Yes, but it's seen in many native traditions as being almost a danger point, that point of birth, because as you say, the womb space opens. And
energetically, we even have people who say that the mom, there's a point during the birth work process where the mom actually leaves her body to go and get the soul of the child and bring it to this earth. There's this movement of energetic, expansion or leaving your physical body to do this. There's a gap.
Yes, nature abhors a vacuum, so something can move in.
That may be filled in, and we have 7 types of winds in Mexico that give you different conditions and issues, potentially. Nothing. It's nothing. I don't think it's anything too mystical, but when you think about it, there is a point where when you have a big scare or something, you feel like you jump out of yourself, don't you?
Yes, you do. You do.
You feel this escission, this division, and we say, okay, so something left your body. Leave it to protect yourself. Huh?
Yeah.
And then that gap needs to be filled. And we have this ritual for new moms, but more increasingly I'm doing it with all sorts of people for all sorts of trauma.
Yeah.
Where it's the body, you know, through the body, the presence of the water, the presence of the herbs, we tie up these cloths, these rebosos around specific points of the body. And you have, you know, grown-up men crying themselves to sleep and don't understand why they're crying. But there's something really deep, you know, healing there taking place.
Yeah.
It starts in the body. This is what I'm getting at.
Yes. Yeah.
Something deep is happening. I don't need to know intellectually what's going on fully.
Yeah.
As long as I feel better afterwards and I had a relief, and I feel, you know.
Yeah. My sense is often it's best not to really have it run through the brain, because then we can get caught in a story again with it.
Yeah. So the wisdom of the body and the wisdom, you know, it's always going to tell you.
Yes. Yeah. So this really obviously deeply underpins your work and the work that you do. Again, you talk about in some of your work, you talk about the Tao of women. Is your work? Do you work more with women in order to?
I work more with women because women, we are super powerful, and our lives determine the future of humanity. We have a huge responsibility. We are the ones who breastfeed the world, physically, emotionally, and in every sense.
Yeah.
So to me, to heal a mother, to heal a woman, is ensuring that the people who come after her, the people around her, will experience this change.
Yeah.
And yes, I do work a lot with traditional Chinese, and it's very close, many concepts. Traditional Chinese medicine is very close to medicine from Mexico, traditional Mexican medicine. So
that's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Yeah. And this is what I'm getting at when I'm saying, go and look for your medicine. Go and look for your ancestral healing techniques. Because it's likely going to be very similar to mine, other people's.
Yeah. Yes, because we're all the same, aren't we? And so the same medicine will work. It will just have different names and different ways of expressing itself within different cultures.
And you use the local herbs. You know, people always ask me, because I train some people in the use of reboso for healing. And they ask me, you know, what herbs do you use? Well, what's the point of me telling you the Mexican herbs I use? Yeah. You have your own native herbs, some of which have exactly the same characteristics of warming up the body, integrating stuff. So use your native ones, because they're here to heal you. They're your plants. Makes them more relevant for you.
So it's actually understanding the underpinning principles, as you say, whether it's warming, it's cooling, you know, whatever it needs to do.
You know, bring out what was not seen before, make it seen, bring light on that, even if you don't understand it, and, you know, let that be integrated. Because as we see and feel things, we're integrating something deep within us. You know, a big moment of crying after a reboso closing ceremony, cerrada. We don't know what's going on, but something deep happened, and we integrate it in our body.
Yes.
And that changes things for us.
Yeah, wonderful. You also describe yourself as the first moon mother on the island of Ireland. Can you tell us what a moon mother is to start with? And
moon mother is a woman who has been initiated by Miranda Gray, who is an English woman. There you go. People working with energy in the Western world. And to me, we carry out what we call womb healings and womb blessings, going back to the pain body of women, inhabiting our wombs. It's an energetic technique, as much as some of the techniques from the Taoist tradition with the Qigong, the jade egg, they move stuff energetically and physically in a woman's core. Get all these emotional and ancestral memories to come up for her. So the womb blessing and the womb healing is another way of, it's a very gentle but very powerful way of awakening women to our real authentic femininity, she calls it, which could be a controversial topic. But when you realize authentic femininity is individual to you,
yes,
then that gives you permission to express it in any which way works for you. And this is going back to the topic, why women? Well, because we are educating the world.
yes, yes.
So let's work with them.
Yeah, I see in the work I do, and I mean, you see it in the media and everywhere really, the problems women have with women's cycles. I mean, there are massive problems with the menopause. So many women really struggle, which should be something that should be a natural transition. Yes. And so many women have very painful or very disruptive periods every single month. It dominates their lives. And you know, there are so many ways of working to help people, women unpick this. But is this, I mean, I see this at an energetic level of really being an expression of all the work that's not being done in this clearing. I mean, it's just building and building generation to generation.
And it's enhanced by modern living.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
so many of the choices we make in our lifestyles don't support it.
No, so I think the call nowadays is to go back to the body again. If your body is in pain, if your body is sweating, is getting hot flashes, is cramping to the point where you can't get out of bed, it's something powerful. Yeah. So either you tell your body to shut up with a painkiller, really more powerful painkillers also, may I add, because if you don't listen to your body whisper, as I say, then you have to listen to it when it's screaming. Let's look at what's going on, you know. So yes, it's listening again to the body that we talked about earlier.
Yes, yeah, very powerful. Other traditional Mexican practices that you incorporate, can you tell us something about one or two other practices that you do? Because people love to hear about other traditions.
Yes.
And you have very clearly integrated, you know, you found a way of integrating all of this. So, yeah.
There is always that tradition that I love about clearing spaces and opening up spaces when we are not just working with our clients, but even just in our own homes. There's people who insist it has to be sage, it has to be Palo Santo, both of which are endangered, by the way. So find others. What I like to remind people always is the power of intention. But there is an element where the plant is making a difference, of course. All of our plants, especially those that are created for ceremonial purposes, have also physical properties that make them antibacterial and all of these, frankincense. So yes, the plant is...
There's actually a very deep wisdom in going and looking at your native plants, isn't there?
This is what I'm inviting you all along. Ancestral healing. Listen to others for inspiration. Go deep into your own culture, into your own stories. So cleansing the space, using the plant that is ancestrally used where you come from to cleanse the space, but also realize that the plant and the rattle, whatever you may be using, is a symbol. It's something that helps our little monkey heads focus. This is what we're doing. It's not the rattle that is making all of the work. It's your intention. So whatever practice you carry out for opening the space, for clearing a space, for smudging a person or an object, remember your intention is the boss. Everything else is a way of focusing it, whilst of course adding its own things in terms of the herbs that we talked about. So I like this idea of using plants and herbs to cleanse and to protect, whilst realizing it's my intention that is giving, assisting as well the plants themselves to get the job done.
Yeah.
For cleansing women and men, we use certain herbs, and again, I'm not going to say which, because use your own.
Yes, yeah.
To cleanse people, and we just scrub them literally all over the body. It's a little bit painful because it's a bit of...
Yes.
And we always do it towards the end. We start with the head, and we always work towards the earth, because obviously she is the biggest recycler of everything.
Absolutely. She'll take it and turn it into
a good bunch of herbs, front and back, from top to bottom. Give yourself a good cleanse and get rid of everything that you don't like, or something that happened in your day that day, or just to cleanse whatever you don't want to keep and take with you to bed that evening.
Yes. Yeah.
Give yourself a good shaking with this herb bunch. I like this a lot.
Yeah. Very, 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 very clearing. Yeah. Before we finish, because time is kind of...
Yes.
I love, talking to people like you. I just love it. It just melts away. It's wonderful. Can you just tell people how they might work with you if they wish to do work? Because obviously some of the work needs to be face to face, but you obviously do online, and do you hold workshops around the world and things like that? So how can people connect with you?
You can connect with me in different ways. You can get in touch through my webpage. My email on my webpage is hello@yosoygaia, which means I am Gaia.
Yeah. I'll make sure the links are up for people.
I do workshops in different countries. I will be doing work with the womb blessing community more in England, because that's where you are at the moment.
Yeah.
I will be initiating moon mothers in England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland in the next few months.
Yeah.
I have a big workshop with major native Mexican midwife coming to London in May. And although looks like it's a workshop for birth workers, but an energy worker, you will be getting also stuff there, a lot of tools, and how to use a rebozo, a piece of cloth, for healing. So
yes, yeah.
You want to be there.
It sounds like an amazing technique.
Yeah, well, and also we have one day where she will be talking. She's called Angelina Martinez, and she will be working with honoring women's life cycles. One day workshop where she will be talking about, the cosmovision, our understanding of what is going on with women nowadays. Yes. Yeah. It's this disconnection we were talking about. So I have that. We have loads of events, but on my website, yosoygaia.com.
Okay, yeah. And Yo Soy Gaia, I am Gaia. Why that?
Because we all are.
Yes.
It's not a selfish I am. It's an invitation to realize that you are all the Earth Mother. And we all have the power to transform. We are fire, we are water, we are air, and we are the land. And it's in our ancestors too. So we bring all that together in Gaia, and we are all Gaia.
Yes. Well, that's a wonderful note to finish on. Mayela, thank you so much. It's been so interesting. And keep doing the wonderful work you do, because it is sorely needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone listening. I'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye.